Now move on to our next speaker for the day. Another pass out from IHM Chennai. We are proud to have another speaker on our panel today, Mr. Sudeep Sengupta. He is the Vice President Operations for Green Park Hotels Chennai. He graduated from the college in the year 1995. He did his MDP Revenue Management from IIM Ahmedabad in the year 2014. He did his internships at Taj Group of Hotels, started his career with the Residency Chennai. He was the GM of Holiday Inn Kingston South, and since 2011, he is the General Manager of Green Park Hotels Chennai. In the year 2018, he was raised to the position of Vice President Operations at the Green Park Hotels. We welcome you, Mr. Sudeep. We will be listening to you very carefully for your insights. We, we welcome you to this webinar. Over to you, Mr. Sudeep.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Johnson. I think one of the first things is that, I must thank Venki for such a, wonderful, session that he had. In fact, the question answer session went long. That itself shows that, people were listening to him very keenly. And I guess, nobody but an entrepreneur can understand change as naturally as it could be by, the various challenges that they face and go through. But the pitfalls of that wonderful session was that it makes the next speaker more and more nervous. So I hope I can, sort of handle that. So yes, so good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to thank SCORE Training and Hindustan College for this wonderful initiative, and also for inviting me and my team to be a part of this workshop. Change. Now, we must have heard this word over a few thousand times in the last few days, I'm sure. Now, I'm going to start with sharing a small story about change.
So I can't see you. Slightly move your camera, please.
Can't see me?
Yeah, off face is little slightly move your camera. Yeah.
A bit more
Yeah,
will be nice. A bit more will be nice. A little more to your, yeah. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Great, super. So yeah, so back to where I was. I'm going to probably start with a small story I'll share about change and what it means to people. So there was this management consultant who was on a vacation somewhere in an African countryside where he saw a fisherman dock his small fishing boat by the quayside. He took a look at the catch on the boat, and out of curiosity, expected from a management consultant, he asked the fisherman how long it took him to catch all that he had there. The fisherman replied that it must be about a couple of hours. The consultant looked at him and asked him what he did with the rest of his time. The fisherman said that he wouldn't do much. I sleep late, have a good lunch, sleep under the trees, play with my children, and in the evening I go to the town, maybe have a few beers with my friends. I have a happy life. The consultant ventured further. He said, I have an MBA from Harvard, and I think I can help you. You should start fishing longer every day. You can then sell the extra fish you catch, and with the extra cash, you could buy a larger boat. With that money, that larger boat will bring you, you buy 2 more boats, and so on till you have a large fleet. Thereafter, instead of selling fish to middlemen, sell it to consumers directly. You can then move to a larger city, and maybe even to Europe or UK, from where you can direct your huge enterprise. This fisherman was a little perplexed. He said, how long will all this take? The consultant said, oh, maybe about 10 to 15 years. And then the fisherman asks, after that, what? The consultant says that after that, you could sell shares of your company, make millions, and then retire. The fisherman asks, what happens after that? To which the consultant says, well, you could then retire peacefully, move to a small village by the sea, sleep late every day, spend time with your family, go fishing, take afternoon naps under the tree, and spend relaxing evenings with your friends. The fisherman looks at him and he says, that's exactly what I'm doing now. Why should I change anything at all? Well, I think change is a beauty. Just like beauty sort of lies in the in the eyes of the beholder, change also is sort of it has its importance from the perspective of different people. I wish to leave the story with you all to ponder, and may probably come back to it in the end of the session if we feel that there's something that is missing. Having said that, I'd like to move to the topic of the day, which is adapt to change. and talk to you all a bit about my own experience in personal life. I would attempt to cover two phases of my career that have taken me through the two major types of professional change. One, where you need to change yourself in order to adjust to a new, different environment. And two, where you cause a change, drive it through with a vision and goal in front, a plan in hand, and a team of leaders to execute. Well, my story starts somewhere in the middle of my career path in the year 2007, when I was working at the erstwhile Intercontinental Hotel in Goa as an EAM, responsible for operations of the resort's massive food and beverage section. I had spent some 2 years at this property and was successfully progressing in my career, having hosted some of the largest weddings from the celebrity circle of Mumbai and Delhi, and also running a bunch of top-of-the-line restaurants and bars in the resort. At this point of time, I was extremely fortunate to get an offer to join a project hotel set to be a 4-star Holiday Inn in the prestigious location of Kingston upon Thames in London, United Kingdom, as a general manager. I took up the offer amongst some bit of skepticism, both from my family and peer group, as there were serious concerns about the position I was taking up in a country and environment completely unknown to me, to lead a team that would perhaps be more experienced and knowledgeable about local traditions, working styles, rules and regulations, labor laws, etc., than me. I started off interacting with the hotel owner and the project team while I was still in India, and tried to get a hang of as much information I could get regarding the hotel operations in that country. Finally, the day came when I arrived at the offices of Sun Hotels Limited, a company which had ventured into hotels for the first time. Now that meant that I was the most knowledgeable person about running a hotel in the United Kingdom in this entire company, because the promoters were from a completely different industry, and the project people had no idea of how to run hotels. So one of the first things that came as hurdle to me is when I found that there was severe shortage of people everywhere. Having been used to a flurry of men and women around you, waiting to take your command to deliver tasks and projects back in India, it was the most challenging thing to accept and understand. I was given a sanctioned strength of about 49 people to run a 112-room hotel. In India, easily I would have had a sanction of about, let's say, 150 to 160 people to run that hotel, but I had only 49. It took me a while, but once I was able to understand that the highest cost parameter in my MIS was manpower, and how much difference it would make to my gross profit if I were able to control my wage cost, I started figuring out ways of actually utilizing my team's time and efforts more productively. I was learning each day from my subordinates, my peers, and from my customers. Each minute, each day, each week was teaching me. I decided to focus not on copying what I saw, but learn what was the desired result and the challenges, and then figure out my own way of handling it. I had a cubicle of an office just behind the reception, and I would keep an eye on the reception counter through the CCTV. Those of you who may have stayed at a hotel in Europe or UK would probably know that a guest is expected to patiently wait in a queue as long as it takes for the reception staff to attend to the previous guest. I would get into the reception desk to take a check-in myself, or enter the bar counter and start serving a guest the moment I saw that there's a second or a third guest waiting in the queue. I started slowly noticing that some of the local staff noticed my eagerness not to keep a guest waiting and started helping each other wherever there were multiple guests to be served. So lead by example worked. The other major challenge, the change I had to cope up with, was tough labor laws. Remember, my last job in India was in the year 2007. It was still those days where we could easily get our staff to stay and work in the hotel for 12 hours or even more on almost a daily basis. However, here I was, where a waiter or a receptionist would just drop whatever he is doing on the clock when the shift ends and go home. I had to actually make a huge effort to not get upset with such situations, and started to learn and get my heads of departments to plan their rosters better. So I was not only fighting with limited manpower, but I was also finding a different attitude amongst the workforce. My next 4 years in that country was all about unlearning, relearning, and adapting. When I wanted a driving license, I was told to join a driving school. I had been driving a car in India from the age of 15, and there I was, a 34-year-old man, being asked to learn driving However, my first few interactions with my driving instructor opened my eyes. I knew that I had to unlearn my Indian driving skills first if I wanted to pass the tests. I had heard some harrowing stories from my other colleagues in the company about their experiences with numerous failed attempts at the test. I was, however, determined to get through both the theory and the practical in one shot. And so I did. Looking back, I realized that the only reason I could pass in one shot was because I knew how to unlearn quicker than the rest. Adaptation's first rule is to be able to unlearn what's necessary so you could learn the newer skills faster and better. If you ask me some of the ways I probably handled my adaptation to the new environment and new ways of working without getting stressed, where A, I found humor in every situation. I think one of the speakers covered this yesterday, but I have actually practically seen it that if you find humor in every situation, it just let the moment pass and gives you more time to think and attack the problem in different ways. I tried to take a lot of things in the lighter vein, especially the effect of cultural differences on way things were done or not done. B, I decided to focus more on the problems rather than the emotions that the situations brought about. C, I focused on values instead of my fears because values were something which I had learned in immense measures back in India. So I started focusing more on the values instead of the fears. Accept the past, and the next one would be that I accepted the past, but I was fighting for the future. I knew that the past is past, it's over. What I have done, what my achievements were, the way I have done things is past. I accept it, and I was looking at fighting for the future. And the last thing was I did not expect stability. At every point of time, I wanted to challenge myself and I wanted to keep going on and did not accept stability. Fast forward 2011, I lost my father and there was a huge turmoil back home. I decided to return back to the country, lock, stock, barrel, and start the next chapter of my career/life. My time started with this beautiful hotel in Chennai called the Green Park. And having heard so much about this organization, about its rich culture, employee-friendly management, great financial performance, it was a legacy I was inheriting as a general manager. This time, however, it was slightly different. I knew that now was a time to use my overseas experience and learning and bringing about positive change back here. The hotel had a 75% occupancy. Its restaurant and bars were popular. Its banquet business was steady. So why should I change anything? In fact, one of my very revered senior friend in the industry even advised me, Sudeep, it's a successful hotel and it's better you don't swim against the stream. You'll be fine if you blend into the culture and just keep doing whatever they're doing. I, of course, had other ideas. I was staring at an inventory blast in the city within the next 12 months. I was aware that there were 8 new hotels nearing completion with an inventory add-on of 1,400 rooms along with extensive banquet space and facilities was shaping up to change the industry dynamics completely in the coming year. The multinational companies had all tied up with various investors and Chennai was to get its first Hyatt, Hilton, Novotel, Westin, amongst others. It was a no-brainer that a huge cultural shift was to happen within the industry as these companies would bring in international practices, processes, efficiency in operation, and new benchmarks on productivity and profitability. I wanted the team at Green Park to be ready for this. One thing that I knew for certain was that I wasn't going to take the easy route of making change in personnel and getting people from outside the system to achieve what I wanted. The hard work started from day one. Specific goals were decided. Communication started rolling out in various forms. The first couple of months went in convincing team members as to why the change was required. I realized that the team knew what was coming in terms of new hotels and competition, but did not actually understand how it would hit us. My job was to explain to them in detail as to how efficiently these chains worked and how they had a huge edge over us from their international presence, best practices, brand value, massive training and process infrastructure. With no disrespect to my team members of that time, many of whom I actually am still fortunate to have with me, this is the point where I actually learned how you can sway 1,000 men by appealing to their prejudices quicker than you can convince one man with logic. But the experience was great, and Sooner rather than later, I had the entire team behind me ready to accept the next stage in the change process, which was training. A series of training sessions were conducted, covering each area of operations where we expected to bring in change. Introduction of revenue and inventory management, product upgradation, presentation skills, quality control, back-end processes like better material management, international accounting procedures, better food and beverage controls, and most importantly, process changes including use of technology to bring in more efficiency. Parallel to the goal setting, communication and training initiatives, we were also working on fostering effective leadership. Thankfully, the company shared a massive cultural dividend over the years to be really proud of, and I had the benefit of having leaders who had very little barriers and negativity to be removed. Nevertheless, we worked on whatever else had to be identified, and the few resisting ones were quickly brought on track. The hotel was upgraded to a 5-star the following year and had already started showing growth in profitability, significant increase in ARR and RevPAR, and was on top of its comp set most of the times, even after new hotels started opening up one by one. Well, time to celebrate success. Massive drive of employee engagement activities started, and we as a group came up with an initiative to attempt to become one of the best employers in the city. So big changes, again from my learnings, overseas. Wanted to bring in work-life balance, and we started, we moved into a 6-off-day kind of model. We introduced advanced learning programs, faster growth for people. The number of employees had come down from 413 to 340, even after extending operations by adding more number of rooms and large function spaces. We were more efficient, more productive, and making more profits just by rearranging our work practices, redefining our processes, and by developing structured and comprehensive methodology. Fast forward 2020, the biggest catastrophe the world has ever seen in decades, and something that even veterans in our industry are grappling to come to terms with. Our biggest strength at Green Park today is a team that does not fear change. We used our strengths very quickly maneuver into change mode, and were the first movers wherever there was an opportunity to change the model of income and expenditure. We created new verticals of housekeeping and sanitizing services, food delivery platforms after tying up with several apartment complexes, and also opened our doors to the quarantine business for the Vande Bharat mission repatriates. We changed operation style to create further efficiency, and multi-skilling training over the last few years started working like magic. In the end, I would like to reiterate that to adapt to change, the most important quality is perhaps flexibility. The 3 types of flexibility that leaders should probably have is cognitive flexibility, which indicates nimble, divergent thinking and interest in developing new approaches, the ability to see and develop new connections, and the propensity to work across the organization. These leaders generally learn from experience and recognize when an old approach does not work anymore and when is the time to change. B would be emotional flexibility, where a leader is comfortable with the process of transition, including grieving, complaining, and resistance. Adapting to change requires give and take between the leader and those experiencing the change. And C would be dispositional flexibility, where a leader operates from a place of optimism, grounded in realism and openness. They would acknowledge a bad situation, but simultaneously visualize a better future. Such leaders see change as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. Before I end, some tips on adapting to change as a leader. Be curious, ask a lot of questions, wonder, explore, and consider before you judge or decide. Don't get attached to a single plan. Plan B and C should always be ready. Create support systems. Don't dive in alone. Look to mentors, friends, coaches, trusted peers, professionals, family members, and others who can serve you as a support system. Understand your own reaction to change. You have to be clear about your own emotions and thoughts about changes so you can be straightforward and transparent with others. Immerse yourself in new environments and situations. Do this when you're confronted by change. Do this not only when you're confronted by change, but also get practice by joining activities, meeting new people, and trying new things on a regular basis. With this, I think I'll conclude, hoping that my experience with adapting to change and causing a change helps you all to look at things more probably in a different perspective. And my absolute best wishes to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sudeep.
Thank you.
One question on a lighter note. If, I understand from your speech, you had an exposure to different cultures. Is there one incident you think it was, you think it would have been handled better? You laughed about it afterwards.
Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is, when we were inaugurating our hotel in UK. So this was the day of the inauguration. I think the invitation was timed at 11 a.m. And we had the local member of parliament from Kingston upon Thames, the borough of Kingston upon Thames, who was supposed to inaugurate the hotel. And probably, I think there was another a couple of other VIPs who were supposed to come. So I had distributed, the work to my entire team, and everybody sort of knew what they have to do. And only work which I had actually given to myself was arranging the welcome and personally welcome the VIP, the member of parliament of the borough. So it was 11 a.m. and my experience in the UK was that time is, it's generally kept to the T. So it's like, it is not, if it's 5 minutes to 11, I can actually expect the VIP to come in. So I stood at the lobby till about 11, 11:05, 11:10, no signs of the VIP. I stepped out into the porch. I could not see any cars. I could not see any, cavalcade. I could not see any security, nothing. There was absolutely nothing happening. 11:15, 11:20, 11:18 to 11:20, I was paranoid. I said something has gone wrong. Either somebody's goofed up with the invitation or the RSVP. I came back into the lobby and I was panicked. My sales manager, who was a British guy, he said, Sudeep, it cannot happen. Have you seen his face? Do we know him? I said, no, I haven't. He quickly Googled the face and he said, that gentleman sitting in the bar on the stool, that's Mr. So-and-so, the member of parliament. Now, can you imagine? He came in a small hatchback which looked like a WagonR with a whole set of stuffed toys behind which probably his children play with. And I was standing there expecting a cavalcade, security,
a convoy.
Yeah, that was that's what cultural difference can do to you. So anyway, we managed the situation. We went to him and I was, open enough to tell him that I was probably expecting slightly different, being from the background that I come from, and we had a nice laugh about it and we went on with the business of our inaugurating the hotel. But yeah, there you are.
Yeah, thank you. It was a nice one. Another question. Yeah, Kavita, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Sudeep, you have been giving tips on unlearning. Okay, so can you give me a little more tips? How fast, or what is the trick that you use to unlearn things little fast?
I think it is all about first accepting that you have to unlearn. Like I said, when the driving test was happening, I was like, I thought I was a great driver because I had driven all across this India. I started driving even before the age I could get a license from. I was overly confident with my driving skills. But then I realized that unless I unlearn those skills, it was very difficult for me to, pick up the right skills to drive in that country. So that's one example. But in work-wise, I think, every situation, like for example, the present pandemic situation itself, unless we unlearn some of the things we have done in a way that was probably more suitable in the past and is not suitable henceforth, I think it will be difficult for us to accept, newer skill and newer ways of doing things.
Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
I would like to ask one more question. Do you think working in hotel industry in India is difficult or working in UK is difficult, according to you?
Well, both have their own challenges. And I think I would actually probably say that working in the UK would be more difficult. It's slightly more challenging. Because it is an evolved market. It is, competition has set in over the years. And working in a competitive, evolved market is always more tougher than working in an evolving market.
Correct. One more question I would like, again, this is personally from my side. which would be the most difficult situation you faced across your career? One of the difficult changes you had to make, or rather, I would say, difficult decision. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I need to give up these things. I'm going to gain these things. You did a proper, study and then decided this is what I'm going to do. What is the most difficult decision?
This is one. Actually, it is when I'm a food and beverage guy. I come from a food and beverage background, and my expertise is food and beverage. And when I landed up in the UK, where this hotel had only very limited food and beverage, just maybe one restaurant and one bar, and very limited banquet space, and that too, weddings are not very popular in weddings and social events are not very popular in to be conducted in hotels. There are other venues that people generally use for those things. So it became a little challenging for me to meet targets for the hotels through the F&B route. So I think I had to sort of, accept that that's not going to really work out. And I had to start really learning my skills on, inventory management, on the rooms division, and how I could sort of, increase my revenue from the residents itself rather than waiting for F&B to happen from outside. I think that was an interesting phase of changing myself, changing track, and sort of learning how to make revenue from rooms division rather than food and beverage division, which eventually helped me, back home as well. Because I'm sure, some of those learnings we could use when I landed back in India.
One more on the lighter note, how did you see Chennai change on your second visit?
Oh, it was very different. It was very, very different. I studied in Chennai. I also, you're probably aware, I passed out in 95, and then I had about a year with the residency hotel in T Nagar. And 96 was when the last time I had been in Chennai. And when I got back in 2011, first thing that hit me was the number of flyovers that this city had. And, of course, the population had gone, many folds. And once again, driving was extremely difficult in the city. I recall, in our days, the police on Mount Road used to be extremely strict. You just can't cross the zebra barrier and go ahead at a red light. So if you do that, you'll be forced to, drive back and come behind the line. And when I landed back, I saw that, there was probably hardly any respect for the traffic rules, regulations, and police. And I mean, not even comparing to anywhere else in the world, but if you compare it to the Chennai of 1995, when I had left last, you could see a massive difference. Yeah.
So there was a big change.
Massive indeed.
Kavita, any more questions?
A lot of appreciation pouring in, rather question. So I will just send the message directly to her.
Okay. So Johnson, can I?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sudeep, when we do a research paper, okay, we come up with the abstract and down we give the keywords, so quickly to understand what is the paper is all about. So on that note, I wanted to quickly to wrap up or conclude whatever you said. The first thing you said is the unlearn and relearn. That was very powerful. Another thing you said, the concentrate on problems rather than emotions. That's absolutely great statement. And you decided to swim against. My God, that's powerful, man. And the thought process of how to put the communication in various forms. We just talk about communications, but communication in various forms is so thoughtful again. And one man with logic makes a huge difference. That's nice. You were talking about vigorous training drive, and the other thing is change is all about flexibility. I think this is the most powerful takeaway for the day. And other thing what I personally felt is understand your own reactions to change. I think you made our title apt. The change management title apt. Thank you so much coming on board, Sudeep. Okay, it was.
Once again, yeah, I think it was a fabulous session. I have attended each of the sessions in the last 3 days, and I look forward to attending tomorrow as well. And my team has also gained immensely, and I'm only hearing good words from them about the entire program. And I must specifically thank Manoj for pulling me into this. And we hope to have more of these in future as well.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Another thing is, yes, couple of um, uh, the comments, rather I would put it as compliments. They said we had all these days, we had dynamic speakers, and today, along with being dynamic, we have a handsome speaker.
That's a good one.
So I had a couple of personal WhatsApp comment. Okay, I think it is all for you, Sudeep, and thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sudeep.
Hey, Sudeep, thank you. Personal thank you. Despite your personal difficulty,
Badri is
you
here.
did a fantastic job. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Thank you, Sudeep. Thank you so much.
Badri, can I hear from Badri? Our head, Dr. Badri.
He must be muted. Badri, sir.